Who doesn't love a good horror game? I was recommended to play Outlast from one of my friends, and now you have this video where I share my thoughts on it and also include some fun clips when recording, because there's nothing better than playing horror games in the dark late at night. Although there was a problem with my OBS for Outlast 1, so until the DLC you can't hear my voice, so I didn't include any reaction clips. I do apologise, but I didn't want to fabricate the clips just because it wouldn't be as genuine as a first time reaction. I admittedly haven't played that many horror games, not that I dislike the genre, but rather the opposite. I like them, but for the longest time I couldn't find enough games that scratch that deeply disturbing, uncomfortable itch that quality horror games have, and safe to say that Outlast games not only met that expectation but exceeded it. I am somewhat familiar with this series, having grown up watching popular content creators like Markiplier and PewDiePie play these games, but I never got around to playing it myself until now. And before you ask, I do have a long list of horror games that will get their own videos, including the likes of Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Soma, and some of the Amnesia games, so you can expect quite a bit more horror game reviews alongside whatever else I decide to play and review. Just quickly before continuing, if you do like this sort of review based content, please consider subscribing. It means so much to me as I continue to produce this sort of content and work to better create the sort of stuff you guys want to see. Oh, and if you didn't already see, I'll be reviewing both Outlast 1 and Outlast 2 in this video, so I was able to kill two birds with one stone. Let's go on with it, shall we? Starting with Outlast 1, which released back in 2013, the game immediately starts out in the late of night as you receive a tip from an unknown source about some activity happening at an abandoned asylum, and for some reason our character decides that would be a good idea for us to go and investigate it. Like, that just screams red flags from the get-go. We arrive and get to exploring, entering the building through climbing up and around to find an opening before an absolutely unforgettable set of events that, to say the least, are deeply disturbing, horrific, and full of gore. Like, everything that could go wrong here does go wrong, and as much as the feeling is like, why am I even doing this, you can't help but push forward because the game just doesn't let up for even a single moment, which is a testament to its absolutely fantastic game design. I played through the entire game in one sitting, which took about 3 to 4 hours depending on how much you're willing to explore, although if you really just want to get it done, I'm sure you can further reduce that time. My only critique is with the ending. I thought it was a little underwhelming, which is unfortunate because the rest of the game was so incredibly gripping throughout, but I felt like the last part, while still being tied to the main themes the game portrays, it felt completely separate in terms of environmental design and narrative detail. It felt like it was almost one big exposition just to wrap up the game, but outside of that I think the game is fantastic. I'll look at the gameplay first. The way the game blends fast-paced hide-and-seek action and parkour worked perfectly. I thought it pushed the player to really think about their actions, particularly in chase scenes, just because it added so much fear to these situations, and every scenario just fills you with dread. What I also thought was a really neat touch was the use of the camcorder to help record your exploration of the asylum, also for night vision, which was mandatory for any dark areas, as the game by default is incredibly dark, which ties it wonderfully to the environmental design. Along with this, the battery of the camcorder dying as you use night vision mode pushed the player to find a neat balance of adrenaline and intelligence to make sure the battery lasts. Thankfully, batteries can be found throughout the world, and man are they a relief to be seen. The sound design on display in this game is incredible, with so much attention to detail placed on creating a sense of discomfort for the player. I thought it was best encapsulated in this clip alone. Along with that, there were floorboards that creaked under every step, door slams that echo to fill the silence of the wards, breathing is heavy due to a mix of adrenaline, fear and exhaustion, enemies can be heard, which makes the silence feel like a paradise because knowing that you're moments away from dying is always terrifying. I thought the enemies were actually quite well designed, definitely disturbing. I don't necessarily think they were too scary, but I think it was the actions of these characters that disturbed me, which in turn makes it scary. You don't want to be the next victim to whatever abhorrent experiments they want to carry out, and the chase scenes, wow, that's peak fight or flight, and naturally it's always flight. I think to conclude the base game experience, it's an absolutely unforgettable experience. The hide and seek nature of the game is really fun, while also providing countless moments of tension, fear and nervousness, along with a very interesting story experience. I also decided to buy and play the DLC Whistleblower for this review, so let's go through that, although I could just summarize it through these clips alone.
It could have been beautiful!
You still can be, as long as you don't decide to chop my balls off. It's fine. God! You're rude. I don't appreciate that.
Don't you look at us.
No,
I love him.
Use him. Let's try this. Nah, I think that'd be better actually. Oh god! What was that? Oh, it's like an incinerator sort of thing with Bob. Oh! Damn it! He gets to run around naked now. It's gonna be such good gameplay. Oh, go on. Oh, brother, you are cheeks. You suck. The DLC follows the person who provided the anonymous tip, and wow, it's equally as disturbing as the base game. It's like 2 hours long, which for it to deliver as much as it does is incredible. It's more upfront action, but still has plenty of hide and seek action as well. What I thought was a really neat part of the DLC is that it plays at the same time as the base game. So there's a contrast between the experience of the base game and what we experience in the DLC, and the way it wraps up is, in my opinion, much better than the original ending. I thought the DLC was great, as DLC tend to enhance the experience of the base game while adding something new, and I found that Whistleblower, while adding new characters, still provided everything that made the base experience unforgettable and provided a fitting conclusion to the story. Well, after enduring Outlast 1 and the Whistleblower DLC, I decided I'd play Outlast 2 the very next day, as if I didn't suffer enough the previous days, and let's just say that it takes everything that was a strength in the first game and dialed it to a new level. I'll just let you watch the following clips to get a good idea of what I'm talking about.
God has gone silent. Since the storm, the birth. Who will he have if he destroys us all? Who will he have left to punish?
Yeah, that one caught me off guard. Oh. That's rude. Hello. I'm sure we'll be fine. Ouch. Oh, that's rude. Oh, that's even worse.
Be it. If I can find my way back to the elevator.
As always, let's look at it from a narrative perspective first, just because the story was so good in Outlast 1, and here I found it was even better. There was more depth to the story, which further pushed the player to become uncomfortable at every opportunity. The game goes in a slightly different direction from the first game, which was nice, and one of the more intriguing narrative points was the flashbacks. From what I could make out from them, it seemed to deal with struggling to come to terms with loss and mental deterioration. I think it was executed really well. In terms of mechanics, this game is a stark improvement from the first game. I think that in terms of what Outlast 2 introduced, it definitely looked at what Outlast 1 did well and could have improved and implemented it wonderfully. Mechanics such as crawling and underwater swimming and breathing was a pleasant inclusion and added new ways to hide and stay away from chasers. I thought the quantities of bandages and batteries was well balanced. It allowed that uncomfortable nature of not ever having enough, but if you explored the areas thoroughly, then you don't ever really run out. Now, most importantly, is it scarier than the first game? I think it is, but not in terms of jump scares. I think it's scarier due to the story. It's a lot more disturbing than the first game, and you're never really comfortable at any point. I also found it was a lot more expansive than the first game in terms of what the story tackles. I actually wanted to break down the story a little bit, or at least to the best of my understanding. So if there are any pieces missing, please let me know, as I think it's actually really interesting. So, this couple, Blake and Lynn, are investigating a murder in Arizona, and it goes wrong and we end up stranded. They end up finding themselves in a village of religious groups that are obsessed with the Antichrist. I believe the radio towers in the area emit flashes that cause hallucinations, which we experience as the Catholic school flashbacks. Also, I don't know if the game specifies it, but I really hope the towers are property of Murkoff. That would tie it to the first game wonderfully. It winds up with us experiencing the stages of the apocalypse, or at least some parts of it, like the locust swarms. Oh, this is an Exodus reference. The locusts.
Shit!
Rain and blood, just things that happen in this game, I guess. Oh, it is actually raining blood. Interesting. And I thought the part where we find Lynn was reminiscent of Babylon. Speaking of Lynn, she ends up pregnant and the groups are concerned that she'll birth the Antichrist. So, a whole lot of death later, we end up experiencing the apocalypse, which never really happens, as it turns out we ended up delusional. I've kept it a little vague, but still covered some parts from the story. The sound design was immense. It went in a different direction compared to the first game, largely given that the environmental design was different, but I thought the sound of things around you really played into the ambience and just pushed the player to be unsettled as much as possible. As much as I did love this game, my only complaint was with the parkour, really. There are a few instances where I'd be traversing along areas and I'd either not be able to interact with them at all, or the way of interacting it was awkward. There are also a few instances where my character moved entirely on their own, like I wasn't even touching my keyboard and my guy was just having the time of his life. Why is my character moving on his own? It's nothing that would have any sort of detrimental impact on the game and your experience. This was just something that I observed and wanted to comment on. The game is longer than the first game, which is always a positive. I mean, more time for you to be uncomfortable and regret your choices and to become even more absorbed in the story. The game doesn't feel rushed or try to pad out the story at all, which I think really helps you to enjoy the experience. I think both games are absolutely fantastic. They both offer a unique experience, and I think given that they're largely different experiences, you can't really compare them the same way. Outlast 1 is an incredible game that explores more psychological horror through its setting, character design, and unbelievable sound design. The DLC nicely ties together the game and provides an expanded story of the Asylum and the Murkoff Corporation. The second game is a lot more mechanically advanced and more conceptually intriguing, at least to me, and I think as an overall package, it's amazing. The horror isn't as raw as the first game. Here it's more refined and has a lasting impact. The story is engaging and allows the player to determine their own conclusions and explore a larger world that's uniquely unsettling. The sound design is held to an amazing standard that is as unsettling as the first game, and the jump scares are still as devastating. I think if you're looking to play a good horror game and haven't experienced this series before, I would absolutely recommend playing both of these games. They're incredibly good at what they do. The stories aren't overly drawn out, so you're easily engaged throughout the entire experience. Considering the age of both of these games, 13 years and 9 years respectively, I thought they held up and performed incredibly well. Visually, nothing wrong with either game, which really helps with immersion. So yeah, definitely add these to your list if you haven't played them before and want to push yourself to experience horror games. Thank you all for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate all the support on my recent work, so if you'd like, please consider liking the video, maybe even give me more game suggestions or subscribing. That would greatly help me out. But honestly, if you made it this far, that's rewarding enough. Thank you all for your time. I hope you've enjoyed seeing me suffer, and I'll see you again soon.
He's coming!
God, don't do that. That's unnecessary.